There is no scenario in which talking to the cops is good for you, including Hassan. Also, like Hassan said today, he has to be like the sacrificial lamb to like prove to people that we are in fascism. Like I'm really, it's making me really like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So anyway, we're gonna have a lawyer on tonight to talk about it. A friend of mine, Ricci Sergienko, activist lawyer, and he's gonna explain to everybody why we need to shut the fuck up. But first, we have other things we want to talk about. I also agree with this Pakistani lover boy. I don't think there's any value in like armchair quarterbacking. The point is not to like criticize Hassan for how he reacted. Cops use fucking Jedi mind tricks. The point is that we need to establish a clear protocol for what is the right thing to do. The way to protect yourself and keep you out of a jail cell. I think it's really critical that to his audience, he is not portraying this as something that is like good advice that you should do, that anyone should do. That even, you know what I mean? He should say this was not a good idea for me to do. You know, like I don't know. I don't know if I feel like I've heard that yet. Like if you think you can outsmart the cops and you think you can navigate that conversation and manage your own risk, like police stations, jails across the country are full of people like that. Like I'm telling you right now, people who think that they can outsmart the cops, people who think they can go into a room and talk their way out of a charge are filling the prisons all across our nation. If they want to get you, they'll get you. That is true, but it's also like not true. Like you have to understand cops are notoriously shit at their actual jobs. They rely on you going into an interview and telling them what happened. They rely on you confessing to get charges like 95% of the time. So if you just shut the fuck up and make them do their job, they will fuck up cataloging evidence. They will fuck up getting a warrant. And then all of that evidence is thrown out. You are giving them such a huge advantage by talking to them, by incriminating yourself. You can incriminate your loved ones. You could end up being the star witness for your girlfriend going to prison. It's a big conversation that people are having right now. And I'm just shocked at how many people are trying to find nuance in shut the fuck up. Don't talk to cops. Wait, so if a cop asks questions, just resort to putting handcuffs on? Wait, what? Is that smarter to do instead of talking? Okay, there is nothing that you can say that will prevent you from being arrested. The only thing that you can say that will improve your standing for the police is, I am not answering questions. I would like to speak to a lawyer. Am I free to go? Like these are the only words you need to say. Thinking that the cops won't arrest you if you talk to them, if you answer their questions, is that is probably the single number one mistake that lands people into prison. You cannot ever talk your way out of a charge with the police. That is not how it works. And I'm sad that, like, you know, Hassan, I don't think has done a great job as like a communicator to express the right thing to do here. And a lot of people in his chat were asking, like, what's the right thing to do? It felt really weird to me that he was just like, I don't know, it's up to you. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. Like, no, the answer is shut the fuck up. Stop. Don't talk to the cops at all. Don't talk to the cops when you're being interviewed. If you're arrested, definitely don't talk to the cops. Don't talk to anybody in your jail cell. Don't talk to anybody. Demand a lawyer, talk to your lawyer, and let your lawyer do their job. I love Hassan. I feel very lucky he's okay. I do too. I mean, I think he's a very significant movement builder in this moment we have right now. And that's why it's also, like, to me, very, very unfortunate that he feels like he has to be this like sacrificial lamb and is going to take on these risks, because I think the risks are very unnecessary, A, and B, like, he is more valuable to the movement streaming and being free than he is in a fucking jail cell in Louisiana or CCOT or anywhere. Listen to the Miranda rights, chat. Everything you say can and will be used against you. They don't say, hey, if you really make your case right, you could get out of this. He answered the questions so he could figure out the angle they were working from. That is helpful, says this reply. It's not really, says the litigator. He already knew why he was being detained because he's a smart guy. We disagree here, but it's okay. Just remember, fuck the police and shut the fuck up if a similar moment ever comes for you. It can be hard, yet still so important to do. And this is exactly where we should be in this conversation. Again, like, this is not a critique of Hassan. I don't blame him. Like, whatever happened, happened. Whatever happened, it happened. I'm not here to be like, you know, how dare he do that? He put all of us at risk. It's whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's water under the bridge. We are past that now. I'm talking about what to do in the future, and I really want to make it very clear to you why there is no benefit to talking to the police. And I'm going to nail it into your skulls tonight, okay? We're over and over again. We're going to nail it into your skulls because I think it's critically important, and it scared the fuck out of me seeing so many people not understand a very, very important concept. Okay, another tweet from this person here. They're quote tweeting somebody who was replying to this the tweet we just read. The point is for people with privilege to speak up, not cower and lawyer up immediately. He needs to speak up so that this gets media traction, which it has. I've seen a lot of people saying this. You might hold this person's same opinion. No one would care if this happened to a nobody. It's news because it happened to him. Can happen to anyone, especially brown folks. Here's the quote tweet of that. Sorry. It is actually extremely punk rock to refuse to speak to cops and then tell the masses what happened when you did that. It requires a degree of bravery and fortitude that should not be underestimated, which is why I am making these points. I don't know why this is controversial. I'm glad he's speaking up about what happened to him. I just also think it's equally critical to keep uplifting the importance of not communicating with cops, including CBP, without an attorney present. Also, chat, you guys keep sharing shut the fuck up videos. I made a shut the fuck up video with the lawyer that we're going to have on in 10 minutes. Awesome, extraordinary abolitionist organizer from LA.
What's up, chat?
ACAB's in the chat. Okay, so people seem to be making the like long-winded argument that there's somehow good reasons to talk to the police, right?
I would say that I'm a civil rights lawyer, but not only that, I have been facing constant and consistent surveillance, police harassment, and state repression for the past 5 years. And so this isn't nothing against Hassan personally, but me personally, I can critique Hassan and I can say that strategy employed was not smart on his part. Hassan has a huge platform, and leading by example is also something that could occur on his behalf. He didn't have to go in and say, I'm going to test them, and thinking that he can engage in conversation with them. We don't know what would have happened if he asserted his rights from the very beginning. And also, I want to make it clear that you do not know what your actual rights are or what the government is trying to do to you, what the law is. The law can be manipulated and used against you. The government can twist the law and apply criminality to your actions, no matter what. I saw Hassan's stream today and yesterday, he was talking about he has a First Amendment right. And, you know, to an extent, I agree. However, your quote unquote rights doesn't mean that the government won't conspire to set you up and criminalize your existence. Black people are criminalized for walking down the street. They have the quote unquote rights to exist in this country. So these mechanisms used to target people post 9/11 were created by Bush 20 years ago. And so basically asserting your rights as though, oh, well, I have a First Amendment right and I'm not doing anything illegal, that doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. Shut the fuck up, okay?
I feel like some people were really trying to like make the argument that there are magical situations in which you can talk your way out of a charge or something like that. And can you just kind of like explain why that's not true? What are the police trying to do whenever they get you in an interview?
Well, especially in Hassan's case, he's a target. He got flagged on a list. And so they're already paying attention to you. Brett doing this stream right now, me being on this stream right now, we are adding to our exposure to the state in repression. And I also would suggest that, like, you should do your best to prevent becoming an active target of the state. If you are getting stopped for your political views and that's all they have on you, talking with them won't change what's going to happen next. If they are suspecting you of a crime and you decide to start talking to agents, police, border patrol, and you consent to incriminating yourself, which is what Hassan did by not asserting his rights. He's consenting to giving information to the police. Pigs are trying to fuck you at all. They are trying to gather information to use against you. So say you are being accused or investigated for a crime. Talking to them certainly does not help. Not talking to them means that the investigation and what they have on you at that point is enough or not enough to charge you, bring further charges against you, whatever the next step is.
Like police do a lot of things to like force compliance, and like, you know, like they like I refer to it as like Jedi mind tricks and shit, right? Like they use everything they can and like use psychology against you in a lot of these ways. But I do think like the main point of the conversation should be like establishing a protocol for going forward. If you or anybody in the chat is targeted by the feds, you need to have a plan. You need to have a a very clear like dialogue tree of what you say and when, and you need to practice it. You need to role play it with your friends. You need to like, you know, do the things. However, I do think there is like obviously a lot of conversation that can happen around the strategy of what Hassan is doing. And I think specifically this idea that he is like giving us info or like being like this like kind of like somewhat of a like a sacrificial lamb, you know, and like, you know, doing something noble and like taking on risk in a way that benefits like the left in general in some way. I wonder what you like think about that.
I would say that we know that they are targeting people for their political beliefs or their work. Amir Makled, who is a lawyer for some pro-Palestinian students that were being charged at the University of Michigan. He was stopped on his way back in from the country, and they attempted to seize his devices. And he said that, I know my rights, and I'm not talking to you. I'm not going to turn over my devices. And we've all seen plenty stories about hackers being stopped and
Right.
and questioned. And so this is also, I think, an opportunity for Hassan and TikTokers and generally content creators, people that talk about things like this on social media, to understand like we know this is happening. Hassan did not need to engage in any sort of back and forth with Border Patrol to know that he was being targeted for his political views.
That's right.
Also, we don't know that they wouldn't have asked those questions if he just asserted his rights to begin with. And I would say that, like you mentioned about the Jedi mind tricks and whatnot, and the specific post that PCC commented on last night, a clip of Hassan where he was like, it's like they knew how to navigate the conversation, and then he went down the line of questioning, and it's like, yeah, that's what they're trained to do.
Right.
They're trained to get information out of you, and then also having the Iraqi CBP, like this is also an opportunity for you content creators, TikTokers, to look at that and say, this is actual counterinsurgency.
Right.
This is developed by the military and police and law enforcement in this country. These are tactics employed by the state to get information out of you. Okay? And so, like, Hassan did this and he explained what happened. But hopefully, as we're viewing it, we can see, oh, this was strategic and planned, and he got flagged, and he got the Iraqi CBP, and then they had a line of questioning that they were prepared to go down. And I don't know, I don't think that Hassan needed to be this sacrificial lamb. How far away are we from Hassan actually being imprisoned? For him talking to them, I could see in a not very distant time where maybe not Hassan, but people like Hassan, maybe people like myself, get thrown in jail simply because of accusations or things that are alleged by the government. They don't need an excuse. And so if you're getting stopped, like, you shouldn't give them an excuse. And I think that I just hope people can pull away from the conversation of like Hassan made this decision, we shouldn't critique Hassan, da da da. 100% full solidarity and support to Hassan. No doubt about that.
Right.
I'm gonna fucking critique what he did though.
Yeah, I think just talking about like the strategy of like, you know, it's like the same way that we both talk a lot about the strategy of like going to a protest and like, you know, doing a like symbolic, like getting arrested as like the objective of a protest, right? Like, and how like that is not a, like we can critique that strategy while also like acknowledging that these people are doing something that is, you know, larger than themselves, right? The point is that you should do everything within your power to avoid persecution by the state. It's not something that is good for anybody. Like, there is no value to being imprisoned.
Absolutely. And I am giving this advice from being a civil rights lawyer, but also someone that has faced constant harassment, surveillance, and repression. And you can Google my name and things will come up. And if you know, you know. But like, I am telling you, based on like my personal experience, my knowledge, gained from my profession and learning from others, and also learning from the past and activists and organizers in the past. Like in the 60s, the government took out, killed, jailed, exiled revolutionaries, communists, leaders of the Black Liberation Movement. Like, let's let's deal with the seriousness of what we're talking about. The reality is that, as we've discussed, the state is trying to kill you. The state is trying to get you caught up. The state is trying to throw you in jail. We shouldn't give them a reason to do it. I'm glad that this conversation is happening. I'm glad that there's been other conversations happening throughout the day. And hopefully people take away from it that it's a bigger thing than Hassan. That like maybe they can think about, as you were saying, like role playing.
Let's go there then. Like, what is the proper protocol? You know, CBP pulls you aside after an international flight. What would you say as an individual? Not even giving lawyer advice or anything. Like, what as an individual, what would you do?
I also will say that not talking to them and giving them information doesn't mean that you are like going to be free to go. Or that you're going to remove yourself from consequences or repression. That should be clear. This shutting the fuck up is a tool in a broader OPSEC toolbox to keep you safe. And so if you are a non-citizen, traveling in and out of the country right now is very dangerous. That is the simple matter of fact. You may not be allowed back into the country. But many people in those situations should understand that the consequences, the risks, and have previously discussed with the lawyer. Things are different for citizens and non-citizens. That's also why Hassan, when stopped, he could have been like, I'm not fucking talking to you, and the risk of like deportation isn't there, right? He could assert those rights as a citizen. That also doesn't mean if you assert your rights that they won't hold you longer. Attempt to get into your tech or phones. And so when I say this is a tool, shutting the fuck up is a tool in the toolbox, if you're traveling out of the country, you should understand the possibility of what happens when you try to come back to the country. And one possibility is they're going to attempt to seize your devices and search them. you should think when you're traveling out of the country, this isn't legal advice. There are things you can find on Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF. You go, they have border tech guides. They say maybe delete apps, messages, back up your phone and delete this stuff before traveling or coming back to the country, or both. Maybe getting a burner phone that doesn't have things that could land you in questioning or further questioning if discovered. So again, that's a tool in the toolbox that you should think about. And so if I were, as a citizen, to be stopped on my way back, you also want to make sure that your phone biometrics are always off. I would not have them on for any circumstance, because you know what they'll do? They'll go, oh, scan your face, and phone is open, no warrant. Again, like a lot of what Hassan was claiming, the privileges and his rights will come after the fact. So they can like fuck with you in detention. If you're like in line, or like you're doing like a normal customs process, I'm not necessarily saying like don't fucking talk to them, don't comply, da da da, because that may, if you're not already getting flagged, that may cause further suspicion.
Right.
But if you're being asked to step out of line, I would try to figure out what is happening just by observing. If they start asking you questions, you can say, am I being detained? Am I under arrest? Am I free to go? And they may say you are being detained. And even if they say you are or aren't being detained, if they continue with the questioning, but I would just be like, I don't feel comfortable talking to you. I want to talk to a lawyer before anything else. And I'm asserting my right to be quiet or silence, and I will not be engaging with you. Something quick.
These are like the core points. There isn't like a magic order of words that'll like make this like better for you. Every comp is going to be different, and they're all power hungry bastards. Just assert, I'm not answering your questions. You do not have to answer their questions. It is not ever in your benefit. It is never in your benefit to answer their questions.
You are under no obligation to talk to them without a lawyer present. If you talk to a lawyer or before or after, you will get a better understanding of your strategy, of what you're going to do. What you shouldn't do is go in there with your own fucking strategy without talking to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Which I assume that Hassan did. And I also assume that Lolo probably would not have actually given him that advice. Hassan can be well-spoken and smart. That doesn't mean he knows what he's doing when he tries to fucking bait the cops into asking him more questions. Because any discussion about government designated terrorist group, any discussion, any answer you have about Hamas, Hezbollah, any of them, regardless of my personal opinion, whatever you say, yes, oh no, maybe the kid that I interviewed wasn't a Houthi. Regardless, the cops might fucking lie about your answer, okay? Yep. And you've opened up yourself to questioning, and that you are willing to consent to incriminating yourself. And so, if they ask these questions, one, they can lie, and two, under this Trump administration, you have no clue what they're trying to do to you. Hassan, what if you got slapped with a material support? That's a real fucking thing that like Zionists are pushing hardcore right now. You've talked to someone from Yemen before, and like online they say that they're part of the Houthis. Oh, and the Houthis are a state-designated terrorist organization? Oh, it sounds like you may have been providing material support. And that's how easy it could happen.
I don't even think it's that hard of an argument to make. How much would Activision or any of these gaming companies pay to have positive coverage on Hassan's stream? Now we have a dollar value to time on Hassan's stream that they can directly say, okay, you provided this much money, you provided this much material support to this movement by providing positive coverage to them on your stream.
Has Hassan donated to like groups that support Palestinian rights or anything like that?
UNRWA, I think. So UNRWA could be definitely one that they...
Right.
Yeah, like they've been saying UNRWA is a terrorist organization for a while.
Exactly. And because he decided to open himself up to questioning, he nearly outsmarted himself. Say they asked this question about raising money for UNRWA, then he starts asserting his rights, right? What if they try to like catch him on something, and then he says, no, I don't want to talk anymore. Then for them that's indicating a kind of like a change of pace on how he was answering. So that will then cause more suspicion, and that's why it's so dangerous to not assert your rights and
Yeah.
to think that you can engage in conversation with them, because even as smart and well spoken you may be, they're trying to catch you on something. You may trip up. You may give you may think that what you're doing is within your First Amendment rights, and and they may have a total different view on what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because he could be saying, "Well, I'm doing journalism. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." And in the government's mind, you think the government agrees with Hassan? This is also like not about free speech, but this is something that Lolo talked about. Is about the suspension of habeas corpus.
Yeah.
George Bush did this post 9/11. They basically said, "Oh, well, we can suspend habeas rights for terrorists." So, like, I could see a situation where in the future, the government labels someone domestic terrorist, say that they're providing material support for terrorists, and say we can suspend their habeas rights. That's very serious. It's very, very fucking serious.
I've seen a few people in the chat asking, like, should you have a lawyer's number like ready whenever you're flying into the United States if you anticipate maybe being pulled aside?
If you're traveling internationally and you are a leftist, yeah, you should, again, a tool in the OPSEC toolbox. You should prepare yourself for potential interaction with law enforcement. You should maybe know your local National Lawyers Guild. You may not memorize the lawyer's number, the NLG's number, but maybe you have your mom's number. And you previously already told your Mom, I'm going out of the country. This is National Lawyers Guild. Like, I may have to call you from being detained, and like you call these people if that happens. That would be my advice. Like, either you personally know it, understand it, or have an emergency contact that you know their number, who then could make the call, knowing to assert your rights when being questioned. That will cause police to like kind of take a step back, and then you may have the opportunity to call a lawyer, or get in contact with a lawyer. That they may be like, well, we don't have anything here, like, we can wrap this up, move you on. Not a guarantee for any situation. You can also be like, continue to be held, da da da. But being quiet and asserting your right to a lawyer not only helps you in the moment, but in the future, where if the cops were to continue to press you and question you without a lawyer present after you requested a lawyer, it's possible that that can be used in court in a future court case, saying that the evidence that they illegally obtained because you asserted your Fifth Amendment right. What Trump is trying to do, and his advisors are pushing, are an originalist constitutional theory, okay, called the unitary executive theory. All right. They have legitimate legal arguments for a lot of the things that they're doing, quote unquote legitimate. They're twisting and interpreting the law in such a way that I think that they do legally sound reasoning. It may be fucked up, fascist, and da da da. That's how the system was set up.
Yeah.
But under unitary executive theory, foreign policy is the number one power of the president without fucking Congress or the courts. You know what branch ICE is under?
Executive.
ICE, CBP, Department of Homeland Security investigations are executive branch department. And so, under the authority of Trump, he can deputize these people to do whatever the fuck he says. Under the Immigration Naturalization Act, if you are deemed a quote unquote threat to national security, they can use that against you and detain you and deport you. Like, this is what they're trying to use against a lot of these college students and like other activists that have been targeted. You don't have to follow the advice given against my wishes and against Brett's wishes. You can, try to do things, but what we're attempting to tell you to do is meant to keep you as safe as possible, and it's a tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, we're saying all of this not to scold people or to make, to do anything. We're saying this to keep you safe and out of a jail cell. We are living in an active fascist state, and they are coming for you. And if you do not have people to protect you because you are not building power and organizing, then you are going to be alone in this moment. And that's that's the worst position you could be in.
And I want to tell people, like, it's okay to be afraid. However, like, what are you going to do in response? We have very little power, but what you can do is start to understand. This is why I also think like we need to move away from a rights framework and just kind of be like, what can you do to protect yourself from state repression and state violence? But definitely talking to the police, giving the police information will never help you, no matter what.
Never.
Will never, ever help you.
Thank you so much for coming on, Ricci. I really appreciate it. Do you want to shout out anything?
The most important thing to me is that, like, you know your rights, know your risks, and like get to know the people in your community, because when they turn off the internet and they turn off all this shit, you're gonna only be looking for the people around you.
Right. And we keep us safe.
We keep us safe. And fuck the pigs, okay? Fuck ICE, fuck the pigs, fuck CBP. Like, I don't give a shit. So you all see this. Anything ever happens to me, Brett knows what I would want. Peace.
We love Ricci, dude. What a guy. I also posted to not do this on Twitter a few moments ago. Okay, I'm really glad that he's saying this. Nathan Robinson was correct here. I'm really glad Hassan was released. His detention was outrageous. Just a note, though. Do not do what he did if you are interrogated. Do not answer their questions. Have a long conversation. Having a long conversation with them like this is very dangerous. I'm not criticizing Hassan here. He wasn't naive about that. He knew he was taking a risk by answering their questions. My point is that Hassan's risks are different than yours. He's a public figure. He cannot be disappeared easily. For ordinary people, do not talk to cops. Every answer generates more risk for you. That's why they want to keep you talking. They think you'll eventually mess up and say something that can be used against you. And eventually you will mess up and it will be used against you. This conversation and this take that Nathan is making, I agree 100%. Separately from that is the conversation about whether or not it's strategic for Hassan to take this risk and whether or not he'll be protected, or whether or not he needs to be a sacrificial lamb because he can afford to, or because he has eyeballs on him. Like, this is definitely a different conversation, and I disagree with him on that as well. But here, let's read what Hassan said. So that was the original thread. He quote tweeted it. He said, "This is correct. I have immense privilege and was willing to put myself at risk to investigate what their line of inquiry would look like after seeing all the reports about immigration lawyers and other Americans getting detained for further questioning at the border." Fair. Like, fair. I don't think we should take those risks, but it's fair, you know? Oh, sorry. Chili said, genuine question. Is it better to say I want to speak with my lawyer or I want my lawyer? The first implies just a phone call. The latter implies having a lawyer present with you. Both should work. I think there's risk, and I'm not a lawyer, okay? I'm not a lawyer, and every cop's going to react differently. Truthfully, there is no one sentence, one order of words that is a secret key that's going to absolve you of any kind of legal repercussions. That's not how it works. I think there's a risk of like when we get super granular about the exact order of words and which words to be in, that people will start to generate anxiety about that and not focus on the most important thing, which is that you need to say, like, I'm not answering your questions and I'd like to speak to my lawyer. Something along those lines. Any variation of that sentence is the only thing that you say, you will be in a better place, and they will not be able to continue to question you. And even if they do, like, that should be thrown out.
Nothing I've done online is illegal as of now, if that makes sense.
In his opinion, this is the really, like, dangerous part of this, is that, like, Hassan is not a lawyer, and this is all in his opinion. This does not mean that a judge will agree with him. This does not, you know what I mean? The law is not some like firm thing that is always applied equally. It can change, you know?
Makes sense. Now, laws may change in the future, and they might actually start prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of this administration. But so far, everything I've done is fully protected under the First Amendment, okay? And none of these questions are actually...
Like, he's right, but we are in a world in which that may not matter. And like I think we covered it really well with Ricci, that the definition of material support for terrorist groups is very fluid right now, and that is definitely a crime. Like, that is definitely against the law. So if companies are willing to pay Hassan for time on his broadcast where he speaks positively about them, there is now a material and like monetary number that is assigned to that time. And do you think it would be very hard for a lawyer to go in, prove that there is material value to Hassan's exposure, and say that there was material support by him supporting these terrorist groups? Like, I don't agree with that interpretation of those words, but do you think that would be a hard argument to convince a conservative Trump-appointed judge of? I don't think they can make a law retroactive, changing material support, but fascists will always be fascists. They're not changing the law, though. And they're not applying the law retroactively. They're interpreting the words material support and arguing that what people like Mahmoud are doing is material support. That is just an interpretation of the phrase material support.
Like Trump.
Yeah, and they're saying that what he's doing qualifies as material support.
You know? And
I thought it applied to guns, money, etc. Traditionally, you're correct. Traditionally, this is what it has been applied to, but we are living in a new world where the state is actively trying to stretch that definition to mean other things. Because material would mean something that is not abstract, we shouldn't concede definitions. I'm not conceding it. I don't think that what Hassan does is material support, but it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what Hassan thinks. It matters what a judge thinks and what a prosecution lawyer is able to convince a judge that it means. That's what matters. And I don't think we should change our behavior. I'm not saying that we should stop doing the coverage we do. I'm not going to stop doing the coverage that I do. I don't think Hassan is going to stop doing the coverage that he does. But we should understand the risks that come with it and act appropriately whenever the police knock on our door or pull us aside at the airport.
I don't know if it was like a JCS style interrogation technique to come across as sympathetic, to like invoke some kind of positive feelings out of me, or because he just genuinely was sympathetic and he had the vibes of someone who was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? But he was like, listen,
yeah, like this stuff, this is bad parasocialism about your CBP officer. Do not do this, man. Do not do this. They're there to make you think that they're on your side so that you're comfortable and you incriminate yourself.
I'm Iraqi, so I know. And let me tell you, I do think that him being Iraqi played a big role in this, because if he wasn't, there was a lot of Redditor-ass white boys that are at Customs and Border Patrol at O'Hare Airport. I saw them walk by.
That's exactly why they didn't put them in the room with you, man. They put you in the room with the Iraqi so you would be more comfortable.
There was a dude who looked like he was like 25 max, but he was balding. And I knew immediately, if that mother is my agent, I'm screwed. I'm going to...
And you're not going to talk to that guy, right? You would not talk to that guy. You would not answer that guy's questions. That's why they put you in the room with the Iraqi guy. And again, I understand that the situation they are making 1,000 choices, like, to affect your psychology, to make you feel comfortable, to talk. That's their whole purpose, okay? And so I'm not holding like Hassan liable. I'm not saying that he's like a bad person for doing this and making these decisions. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying I think it was the wrong decision to make, and we should have the long conversation about why. And we should everybody here, everybody in my chat, everybody on Twitch should establish protocol. You should role play what asserting your rights feels like and do it. Like, you should assert your rights in this situation. You should not do what Hassan did here. Even for Hassan, even with privilege, it's still a bad idea. I don't really want to litigate this over and over again, but like, pacifist, don't you think he would have gotten just as much press, just as much articles if he didn't talk to them and they detained him for longer? If they asked all these questions and he didn't answer? Like, I don't understand why we assume that there wouldn't be these articles if, like, he got detained by Border Patrol. He's a citizen. Like, this would be viral news without him incriminating himself and talking.
Like, did you interview a Houthi? It says here that you interviewed a Houthi, and I was like, he's not. You can look to all of the reporting that came out afterwards and before I interviewed him, and I said, like, his name is Rashid Al-Haddad. he is not even a Shia. And the dude, luckily, again, Iraqi, went, oh yeah, that's right. That's a Sunni last name. So he must not have been a Houthi. The very fact that that was like a point of contention that could have gotten me arrested is insane. And I genuinely, in that moment, was thinking like, these dumbass slop tubers are actually playing with fire.
Yeah.
I even thought about not even mentioning this.
No, this is 100% true. I know they're all freaking out about it and pissing and shitting in their pants about this kind of call out, but it's 100% facts. It became a completely different thing whenever it went from, you know, YouTube drama slop, normal Destiny hate to the Ricci Torres letter. When the Ricci Torres letter came out, everything changed. It changed for me. We streamed and talked about it. Like this is a different situation. Now you are dealing with the federal government. This is no longer internet drama. This is now, you need to protect yourself from federal criminal liability.
Basically asking me about if I had ever been in contact with Hamas, if I'd ever been in contact with the Houthis, directly or indirectly, if I'd ever actually been in contact with Hezbollah, if I'd actually ever offered financial support or logistics or any kind of support to Hamas, Hezbollah, or Houthis. They straight up asked me that. And I laughed.
I want to say this part, and as part of a separate conversation, I think is really interesting. And I would honestly love to talk to a free speech lawyer about this part in particular, because they are no longer asking him questions about what has been previously published. At this point, especially with regards to Hezbollah or Hamas, they're asking about unpublished journalism that Hassan would have done. And this is actually very, very well established as prior restraint. Okay? I think, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a First Amendment lawyer. I would love to talk to a First Amendment lawyer about this in particular. But like, in my opinion, as a non-lawyer, if after reading this, you know, this is government action. Prior restraint is government action that prohibits speech or other expression before the speech happens. I think it would be not hard for a lawyer to argue that the CBP official, even asking him in this context about his future interviews, or if he has interviews that he hasn't published, violates prior restraint. And I think personally that if any journalists in this country had any fucking spine, they would be ringing alarm bells and on the front page of every fucking newspaper, because this compromises the essential aspects of journalism, that the government doesn't approve what you publish before you are able to publish it. Okay? And it's been very well established, even in times of national security. In New York Times versus the U.S. in 1971, the United States government tried to stop the New York Times and the Washington Post from publishing classified government documents. The Supreme Court held that the government's urging of security did not trump the newspaper's freedom of press as guaranteed by the First Amendment. The court held that in order to support an issuance of prior restraint, the government needs to prove that the newspaper's publication would cause inevitable, direct, and immediate danger to the United States.
Prior restraints are strongly disfavored under the First Amendment. But what are they? A prior restraint is government action that prohibits expression before it can take place. For example, when the government prevents books from being published, newspaper articles from being printed, or movies from being screened, it imposes a prior restraint on speech.
Or a live stream of an interview with somebody like in Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis. Like, that's what I mean. I think this is like really, this is a very fucking serious thing.
And yeah, he was like, yeah, there's been a lot of reporting on, you know, the conditions in situations like this in detainment, but you're not technically detained. I was like, so I can leave? Am I detained? And basically when I said that, the interview ended. So I don't know if that was something that I should have said from the start. Am I being...
Yes. It's something you should have said from the start. Yes. I just really like it's I understand, like, it's fine. It's fine that you don't know, Hassan. It's really fine that you don't know, but like I really what I would want from Hassan is that he please just like bring Lolo on, bring any kind of like lawyer on to explain what to do in this situation next time. Even if you don't know, I'm not blaming you for how you reacted in this situation. It sucks. this whole situation sucks. You should not be under this kind of targeting. But like, please, for your audience's sake, can we establish a protocol and a best practice going forward? That's all I want. I really, 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 really want that. Let's watch Lolo's video about this and then we'll move on. I hope you are taking this in the way that it's being presented, which is like, you know, we've talked about it for almost 4 hours now. I hope you understand where we're coming at this from. I hope you understand this is not like a fucking call out post about Hassan. This is just a discussion of the political moment that we're in.
So yesterday, I got a text message from my friend, Hassan Piker, and he was stopped coming in from France. He was coming into Chicago, and they stopped him for a period of time and questioned him, and ultimately he was fine. But he texted me as he was basically being pulled aside to let me know that that was happening, because I am his lawyer friend. All of us collectively need to be smart about how we are articulating certain things online, not to be silent, to be perfectly clear before the do not comply in advance heroes in the comments go absolutely insane. And wow, you are such heroes down there. I'm saying
protect yourself. Yes, this is true. This is true. Analyze your own level of risk and what you're willing to take and protect yourself accordingly. 100%. 100%.
Maybe try not to get black.
I wouldn't recommend you are as open with your politics on the internet as I am. Do as I say, not as I do. You know? I am taking a larger risk because I am a white guy who has a lot of privilege. You know, I can be this open about my politics on the internet. For now. Not a lot of people can, you know, and I don't blame people, and I don't think it's like complying in advance for not posting online. Posting is not activism. Organizing is activism. Organize in private with your community and keep that shit off the internet. While I'm here in this angle. Hi, sleepy boy. How's my sleepy boy? Are you having a good nap? Are you having a good nap?